Yep.
Hey, Puma.
Okay.
Others posted pictures with lots of holes.
All right, the June meeting of the RTA will come to order. If we could, make this go as long as the PPACG meeting went earlier today, that'd be awesome. 3-hour meeting without a break. We're not doing that here. You're welcome. Okay, we've come to order. Agenda item number 2, approval of the agenda. Before we get to approving it, we're going to take 9 out of order. We're going to put it between 4 and 5, and then we're also going to take 9 out of order. We're going to do B before A. So if I could get a motion to approve the agenda as I just stated, that would be great.
So moved. Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, seeing no opposition, the agenda is approved. Public comments on items not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the public that would like to talk about something that is not currently on the agenda? All right, seeing none. Item number 4, approval of the minutes from the May 9th meeting. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes from last month? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion, please.
I move for approval.
I'll second it.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, seeing no opposition, that passes unanimously. We will take agenda item number 9 out of order, and we're going to start with 9B, the I-25 GAP project update from Mr. Hall from CDOT.
Thank you. John Hall with CDOT, the pre-construction director for the I-25 South Gap project. Thank you for having me. So the GAP project, we've hit some really important milestones in the last month. The environmental assessment comment period closing. We're in the process of writing the decision document. But really the most important thing is we've got the notice from, at least the public notice from DOT, federal DOT, that the infra grant, $65 million that El Paso County applied for, is going to be awarded to the project. So, as you pointed out earlier, PPACG, Commissioner, there's not a formal thing. We'll probably got another 30, 60 days before we get the paperwork all rolling on that. But in this time period, too, SB 1 passed, and what that did is it allowed us really that we can get package number 1, the first portion of the construction project, under contract this year. Right now, our Transportation Commission, in their June agenda, will be approving $92 million of SB 1 money. I'm making an assumption there, but I'm pretty confident they'll approve that. In order for us to do package number 1, package 1 will be about the 4 or 5 miles south of Castle Rock, from about the Toma Road Skyview exit north. And that's really just a matter of the most efficient place to build the first. It's got the widest center median. We're going to build there first. It's just the easiest way to get under construction, get going. The intent would be then to, and this is where things are really going to get rolling up in here in El Paso County here in July, to get the IGAs for El Paso County Fund, for Douglas County funding, for infra, all settled in over the next few months, starting here in July, and moving forward to the goal of having Package 2, which would be the south end of the project. Think of it as Monument Hill, and the approaches on both sides, Greenland on the north, down State Highway 105 on the south, have that be Package 2. That would include 3 bridges, 3 major structures, 2 wildlife crossings, and the reconstruction of the Greenland interchange in particular, along with widening that whole stretch to the inside primarily as well. So that's probably going to be about $130 to $150 million project too, but we're moving so fast on design, we're focused on Package 1 and getting that out the door in the next 30 to 60 days is our number one priority. For those of you interested in a little more, about the slightly controversial express lanes, our HPT, they briefed to our steering committee the other day, they do have the draft tolling and revenue study in, so maybe we'll start to hear a little bit more on that, but they need to review that and they need to determine when that's available for publishing and stuff. Really, I'd just like to open it up to any questions.
I think one of the things I wanted to mention, I think it's relevant to understand the significance of Senate Bill 1 this year. The money originally allocated for the project came out of a bill from 2017, as we've talked about, Senate Bill 17-267. The problem with 267 now is it's all tied up in litigation, and the Treasurer's Office has been unable to issue the bonds related to 267 because it's been tied up in litigation. And since Senate Bill 1 passed, they were able to leverage those dollars instead of the 267 money, then hoping that they'll be able to, the lawsuit will be taken care of with 267, and then they'll be able to backfill those dollars into Senate Bill 1. So that's been a really great thing Senate Bill 1 passage has actually been a great thing to keep this project on schedule.
Critical even, right, Commissioner? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we would be delayed based on this lawsuit if Senate Bill 1 had not passed. So,
and just incidentally, as I said, the CDOT Transportation Commission will approve that in June. Our STIP actions are being taken care of. The formal TIP actions, which will be done by Dr. Cog for this, will also happen on July 18th and 19th. And right along with that, just about, I think, almost those exact same days, our commission will formally adopt SB1 funding as well. So everything is in line to get us, right there where, assuming I do my job, we are contracting a project there in late July and early August, and have construction and groundbreaking, certainly before the end of summer.
Mr. Chair, quick question.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So just a quick question. You mentioned the tolling revenue report study or analysis that will be released to the public soon. So when possible, I would have an interest in seeing it. Perhaps other members of this board would like to see it. So whenever that can happen, I'd appreciate that get forwarded. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know many of us are still hopeful that CDOT does this without tolls, but if it's a tolled express lane, what are the likelihood that it will have an HOV 3 as part of that?
Well, that study is going to say that, but our policy is, unless there is some substantial reason, which is really that by having HOV 3, so what that means, first of all, let me clarify. So you have HOV 3 plus, may use it for free. You do have to do some little infrastructure work with that in your vehicle. You got to buy the transponder that is switchable. You have to get that.
It's like a
Have that in your car.
$15.
Yeah, I believe it's $10
option.
to $15, and you put in a deposit to use, within the same. So it's basically plugging into the system where it's not your license plate. Then you would have free access to that express lane, and then of course, express lanes also have where you can pay a fee if you don't have HOV 3 plus, or if you're not a motorcycle, where you can use it too, and the transponder gives you a lower rate on that too. So our policy is HOV 3 plus is considered assumed, barring some substantial reason. And two of the most important ones are it just blows up operations. So many HOV3 plus users would use it that it would totally congest the express lane. And the other major one is there's some significant bond revenue. So C470 has this where they have so much bonds used for the project, they need the revenue to pay for those bonds. We don't have either of those situations at all likely on this corridor, so it's certainly anticipated HOV3 plus would be part of it.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. All right, 9A, legislative report update. We didn't get one last month. I guess our lobbyist was busy doing something. I don't know what, but I think if you remember correctly, our last meeting was on the last day of the legislative session.
Yes.
So you get a free pass.
Thank you. As the chairman, I think you would have known that was the last day of session and made some concessions. So these reports now are going to sort of be more like what I've done during my summer vacation, as we did with school. Because now what we're currently, legislative, Senate Bill 1, of course, was our biggest one, and Senate Bill 88, both bills passed, as we like to have seen last session. And now between now and certainly November, I will be out working the state, interviewing virtually every candidate running for office. In fact, since the session has ended, I've interviewed 16 candidates. Most recently, last night, I was down in Fountain meeting with Shane Sandridge and Lois Landgraf to check their temperatures and see where they're at on all of our issues. I had 3 this morning, and tonight at 6 o'clock, I'm interviewing 4 other candidates in Denver districts. So I'll be sending Rick kind of a monthly update on those as to where I'm at, what I think the candidates and where they're going to fall. The one thing I think is interesting for us in the room here, regardless of where they're located and the district they're running in, transportation is always one of their top 3 priorities for their constituents. So it's certainly in play everywhere, and the conversations are very loud. So that's kind of where I'm at right now and what I'm doing. And like I said, I'll give Rick a report as to the candidates and where I think they will fall on our issues as we continue to move forward. This is actually the fun time. Election years to me is where it all happens. I always have said it doesn't matter what your issues are. If you don't have the right 100 seats in those 100 seats, public policy is very hard to come by. So I'll take any questions or move forward from there.
Any questions? I would just say also, now's the time to figure out what our policy agenda should be, for the next legislative session. So, to the degree that you have ideas on how to be proactive, engaging in the legislative process to best leverage our RTA, now's the time to be thinking about that. Now's the time to be thinking about that sort of strategic plan. I think one of the reasons we have Dan is so we could be a little less reactionary to stuff that's happening in Denver and be a little bit more proactive. So if you got ideas, let me know.
And Mr. Chair, maybe a question based on that. There were things that we were looking at last year, some of which were potentially, a challenge for us, to use just a generic term. Are any of those possibly looking like they may come back this year, and maybe we can start getting ready for them, or do we have any risks like that?
We'll certainly know, not to be glib, but after November, the election is going to really determine that. On if the Senate flips or not is going to determine whether we have a backstop to help us with some of our issues or not. I mean, that's why the next 90-day period is just critical that we get out. And to your question and to Mark's point, for the issues that are the most burning for us, because I let everyone know that I represent PPRTA, I think are great for me to get in my hand so I can be talking to them now while we're interviewing them and deciding if we want to give them money or not moving forward in the election cycle. So I think, and Rick can work through the board, and getting the issues that are most burning to us here is important to get to me right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. All right, our CAC monthly report, Mr. Godfrey.
Good morning, members of the board. This is Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. We met last week. Just a couple of things I'd like to briefly cover with you. Before you, you'll have the 2018 budget amendment for the 2017 carryover amount. Good discussion on this. We had discussion with each of the member governments, asked some questions, got answers, and have no issues with the report. And we recommend, we have a positive recommendation for that agenda item before you today. Also, we had a big discussion with the City of Colorado Springs contracts. They had 5 contracts. One of those that we had a long discussion about was Centennial Boulevard extension from Fillmore to Fontanero. The city has a contract they've signed with a developer. In the middle of that plat of land is an old dump, and has been a concern for a long time. And the city has finally come to agreement with the developer, contractor, or developer and owner of that property to mitigate that dump and do the foundation of the road work in there. And so we had a long discussion about liability, compliance, those kinds of things. And Mike Chavez had good answers for us, and we felt like that in the end, they asked most of our questions, so or all of our questions, excuse me. There was a 16-to-1 vote on that, so that list of projects before you, all 5 of those contracts, we're also recommending a positive recommendation to you for those. Same with El Paso County, no issues there. I would like to point out that in your packet, we asked last month for the status of PPRTA 1 projects from the member governments. When you look at Beverly's financial report, you see a % complete. Those numbers are based on the invoices that she's received and subsequently paid, and don't necessarily correspond to the member government's % complete in their project status reporting. So we still had some outstanding projects, and we asked if the member governments wouldn't mind giving us a very brief summary of the status of those remaining PPRTA 1 projects. They did so, and we thank them for that, and that report answered our questions in terms of just generally where are we with those projects. And so that should be in your packet as well. And that was an information item. Then, just as a communication item, we'll be having our meeting, and the next Wednesday is July 4th, in our meeting, so we're having ours on Thursday following July 4th. We figured we can get more people the day after than the day before, so we're meeting on that Thursday, just to let you know. And then I just would like to plug something that I plug for the members. By the way, we've got I want to thank the member governments for filling their CAC position. We've now down to just 1 vacancy, I believe. And so that's great to see a room full of folks. But I did want to point out, and I hope it's in your packet, that Rick and the member government put together a quarterly status report of all the projects that are going on. This report is very handy for answering questions. If someone in our constituency within the CAC or with have a question about a project going on or something, this quarterly report is a great document to use for that. So if you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at that, I recommend that you do. And other than that, that's all I had for you.
Thank you, Mr. Cac. Chair, any questions? Oh, yep. Councilmember Bennett.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the Centennial Boulevard and that dump that was there. If you drive south on South Academy, just before you get to Hancock, there's a bump. That's because that was a landfill that had never got mitigated. So it's critical that before we build that road, that we fix that. Otherwise, 5 years from now, they're going to be back to PPRTA saying, hey, we got to fix this bump because it's going to collapse again. So I know it's taking a little longer than we in the city wanted it to, but it's a critical wait.
And we had a lot of discussion about risk if the contractor doesn't mitigate it, how we know they're up to standards and those kinds of things, and what's the city's risk or PPRTA's risk should there be lingering issues or things that are
Right.
coming along, and Mike was very forthcoming with those answers, and so
Good.
we had a long
Good.
discussion about that.
You know, Councilmember Bennett, it is awesome having your 100 years of historical perspective to let us know what's going on. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that.
Just so you know, when Yolanda is not here, Puma goes visiting, so he's pretty harmless.
All right, on to the financial reports. Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
All right, so we're back to agenda item number 5, the Cac Monthly Report. That's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the Cac Monthly Report, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, that passes unanimously.
Okay, good afternoons. Yeah, so in April, we received $8,256,000, which was $395,000 above the budget and 5%. So year-to-date, we're $1,075,000 above budget, or 3.5%. In April, there was the Space Symposium, which wasn't in last year's budget, so that could be why there was a little bump, just trying to keep track of the things that didn't happen last year, and that's one of them. So compared to last year, on page 2 then, we were $470,000 above the April actual, or 6%, and we are $1,372,000 above last year, year-to-date through April. So are there any questions?
All right, seeing no questions on the monthly report. Yep, we'll be on, well, it's kind of good news.
It's not as much.
We would like it to be
as
better
we'd
good
like.
news.
Back on track, though.
Yeah.
All right, on to item number B.
Okay, so today is the budget amendment presentation, and we want to set the public hearing date for next month, July 11th at 1:30. But the CAC went over this budget in detail. We don't have additional revenue coming into it like we do some years because we're sticking with the $100 million. And I will go over page 1, and it's just outlining what the carry forward of last year's additional revenue is. And it actually, sales and use taxes were below the budget by $906,000, but that's offset with interest earnings being above the budget by $989,000. So administrative and ballot measure expense savings was $104,000. So the net to be allocated was $258,000, and that number's usually a lot larger, but we had a pretty healthy sales and use tax budget last year, so we just weren't fortunate enough to go over the $100 million. And number 9 through the bottom there, 23, is the allocation of that $258,000 with 10% to transit, 35% to maintenance, and 55% to capital. So the member governments then have a memo each that outlines what they're going to do with the revenue that they're carrying forward. And then this budget also takes the unspent budget for last year per line item and puts that in the format that's being used so that we have actuals versus in December they're estimating their carry forward. And a lot of times their actual carry forward is quite a bit different than their estimated because they haven't spent as much. So that's what this budget does, and I don't know if you want the member governments to come up and go through their memos, or if you can live without that.
Does anybody want to see the member governments?
We have the memos in here, right?
Right.
Yes.
It's all there.
And the CAC really went through the detail, so, and approved it, approve a recommendation for the board to approve it, which you wouldn't be doing till next month anyway, with no changes to it.
Okay, I don't think we require more. So the appropriate motion here would be to approval to set a public hearing date.
I move for the approval to set the public hearing date.
Second.
All right, all those, is that right? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, seeing no opposition, that passes unanimously. We will set a public hearing date.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 7, our capital maintenance and transportation contract, City of Colorado Springs.
Good afternoon, Aaron Egbert, Public Works, CIP program. Mike Chavez is sick today, so I'm kind of covering for him, so we'll do the best I can there. We've got, looks like 5 contracts here. The Centennial Extension, I've got a little PowerPoint that we'll pull up here in a moment, but I'll kind of go through these. The wayfinding, or the intersection improvements, that was for tool design, that actually has a typo for the program. It should be on-street bike program, which ends in 45 versus 44. Then we've got 2 on-call street traffic signal projects, and then an on-street bike program, which is partnering up with Transit's, I believe it's Route 9 on Cascade. So that's those, and if we could pull up the Centennial presentation. Does this work? There we go. I can't see that well. Okay. Centennial Boulevard, as most of you are aware, the plan was to extend Centennial from Fillmore down to I-25. This was planned all the way back into the 80s. 85 was the original plan for this project. There's been a lot of development that's happened. The VA clinic did part of it. Indian Hills did part of it. We just completed Phase 1, which is kind of this section right here. It was kind of the missing gap. So I guess it's Colorado Springs' little missing gap project. And that will allow all the developers and construction traffic to get down to MVS to start cleaning up this landfill. So we've got the road sort of opened. It says closed for construction traffic only. We have been working with, this is kind of a zoom in of the MVS area. These are some of our catch slopes. You're kind of seeing outside the road where we're catching. Essentially what we've done, and I've got a lot more information, but we're having an agreement with MVS to where they would mitigate the landfill, bring the road up to grade, and we'll pay them on a % complete basis. There's a lot of things that go into that, but where we're at with our engineering consultants and all the stuff that we would need to do if we had to buy all these temporary construction easements to do this work and move the dirt, most of it is export. We're guessing we're in the $2.9 million if the city were to try to do it ourselves. So we feel like this is a really good, it's a good price for the city. It minimizes our risk and liability with cleaning up the landfill. And we've been working on this agreement with MVS since 2013, so we're finally to that spot. And with that, I'll open up any questions that you have on the Centennial project or any of the other contracts.
How long do you think it'll take to complete?
So what we're doing is MVS has to do another voluntary cleanup plan because theirs expired back from 2010. We're estimating they won't really get started moving dirt until maybe December, earliest January. Take them about a year to clean up. And then this agreement will be, says we'll complete the road in 2 years. And we've set this agreement up to where it's a 4-party agreement. MVS, City of Colorado Springs Utilities, and PPRTA will be all signatories to this agreement.
All right, any other questions? Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Yeah, I just do have a question on the $127,000 project, the bicycle wayfinding. I think you were talking about it just briefly, and you did mention it, but could you describe again what this is? It's a system to help people get to their destination more efficiently?
Kathleen came to bail me out on that one.
Kathleen Krager, City Traffic Engineer for Colorado Springs. The Wayfinding Project is a project that we're doing to sort of coordinate with Parks. Parks is doing a wayfinding project on the trail system, so that when you're biking on the trail system, you can know to get off at this location if you ultimately want to go downtown. But we also sort of need to do the reverse. When you're biking on city streets, especially on bike lanes, you need to know, for one thing, how to get back to a trail system for your ultimate bike trip, or you need to know how to get to a typical biking destination, say the library, if you're on bike trails. So this is putting up the directional signs that are needed. If you think of bike lanes as being little highways for bikes, on all of our roadways we have some form of wayfinding sign, whether it says to I-25 or to downtown or whatever. These are the wayfinding signs that help people who are biking on the street system either get back or from the trail system or find the destination that they're looking for.
Okay, so this is essentially signage.
It is signage, and it's
Okay.
all on-street signage.
Okay. I had some other thing in my head, wayfinding system. I thought maybe this is an app that you use on a smartphone or something like that. But it's signage.
We do have some of those coming, but they probably won't come to PPRTA.
Okay.
But no, this will be on-street signage.
Thank you.
No problem.
Councilmember Bennett?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, seeing no opposition, that passes unanimously. El Paso County. Jennifer Irvin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Board. Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I just have one item for your consideration this month, and that is a contract with K.R. Swerdberger for an improvement out at Judge Orr box culvert, but it's really a bridge. We had this area wash out in 2015, and this is the last of our remaining fire flood recovery that is partially funded through PPRTA. We received about $400,000 from the feds to repair this location, and we are asking for another $486,000 approximately from PPRTA. So the total contract is about $875,000. And once we get this approval, we will move this project forward and get it under construction.
Any questions? Can you tell us what the KR stands for in Swordfinger?
Ken something.
Ooh, no, it's Keith.
Keith, yes, thank you. It's been a
Move
while.
approval.
We haven't worked with them
You
with
stump,
for a while.
stump the engineer.
I was
That's what we're going
close.
for. You were
One
really
uphill
close.
all the time.
Stump the engineer.
Move to approve.
Rude.
All right, that's been moved by Commissioner Gonzalez,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Vanderwerf. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no opposition, that passes unanimously. Other reports, Colorado Springs Transit Service Monthly Report. Mr. Blewett.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. I'll just quickly go over our report that's in your agenda packet. Looking at our fixed route service, I had provided about 240,000 rides in April of this year. That is a slight decrease of about 4.3%. Kind of gave a preview of that last month when I talked to you all, and that's our decrease is declining, which is the right trend. So we had a bigger decrease in January and February, and we're seeing a lesser decrease now. Also, there was one more weekend day in this year, one more weekday day last year, and that can account usually for about 2 or 3% all by itself. So that's a better trend for us. ADA service, we had an increase of about 9.6%. Van pool, we had an increase of about 8.5%, 8.7%. But really, we're following year on year to last year, which was actually lower for both of those. So we're kind of sustaining levels, but it shows as an increase when you compare same month last year. Number 2, projects. So we are implementing our service changes. You know, we do 2 service changes a year, in the spring and in the fall. And in the spring, we implemented all our service changes we could do that did not require additional buses. So when we add service during off-peak, we don't need more buses, so we can implement those sooner. We had an order of buses, and they are starting to arrive. We got our first one yesterday of 10. As we get our additional buses, we can add this new service in the fall. So we are doing our public meetings coming up June 19th and 20th. And those service changes are really exciting. So Route 1 increased weekdays frequency to 15 minutes. The same thing with Route 27, 27 South Academy. Route 1 kind of does a beeline from southeast Colorado Springs to downtown. And then new Route 18, which is Union between Boulder and Academy, which really provides a good benefit to our grid system. And the next two are associated with partnerships that we're having with both the two hospitals, Memorial North and Children's, as well as Pikes Peak Community College. So new routes associated with those that are funded otherwise without, well, I should say the Memorial one is in our budget, but we added to it with the Colorado Springs Health Foundation grant. PPCC was not in our budget, it's being funded through student fees assessed at Pikes Peak Community College. And then new fare option, we're doing a special fare for those who are eligible for a half fare, which includes people with disabilities or Medicare or seniors or youth. We are offering a 31-day pass for just $31. So that's a good deal for those folks. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yes, Council Member Avila.
My question is, we have a contract with PPCC, Colorado College, and UCCF, right?
PPCC has not been signed yet.
Okay, UCCS and
UCCS and Colorado College, yes.
Okay, but this is only during the school year, September through May?
For Colorado College, it is UCCS. I believe we're doing summer with UCCS. If they're paying fees during the summer, we'll provide service during the summer.
Yeah, because I have a couple of students from CC that help me out, and they said, we don't get our bus paid for, even though they are taking classes. So, yeah, I was just wondering about that, if it was only good during the school year.
Well, it depends if they pay their fees during the summer, and it's really an arrangement with Colorado College how they want to do that. But with UCCS, we don't have to do additional service for UCCS, but whenever they're paying fees, we will provide that they can get on for free with their ID pass because they're paying with fees. And Pikes Peak Community College, we are giving a presentation to City Council on June 25th on our College Pass program. We're about ready to sign an agreement with Pikes Peak Community College as well. So it's really, really exciting.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
8B, our PPRTA 1 status report. Who's doing that? Do we have?
Yes, Jennifer.
Sorry, I didn't know which one was in the agenda first, and I didn't have a chance to print mine out. Good afternoon, Jennifer Irvin. This is in response, as Mr. Godfrey said, to a question in regards to the status of our PPRTA 1 projects. And the projects that we have listed therein are the ones that we still have money budgeted in for El Paso County. So, thank you. But I was good. The first project that we still have some funds still in is Mark Shuffle South, and that was substantially completed in 2017, and we had a great ribbon cutting. But we're still having some final closeout activities, including some final closeout of property acquisition and some permit closures, and then final reconciliation of utility reimbursements, and I've brought some of those to you here in the past few months. So once we're able to close out all those invoicing, we will be moving that money. The second project that we still have outstanding is Baptist Road West, and that was substantially completed in 2016. But because that is in the northern area part of the county, it is in the Prebles Jumping Mouse area, and we have some permitting that we're having to do, finalization of some vegetation and making sure that we have the appropriate growth there that satisfies Army Corps of Engineers, and also a final letter of map revision to FEMA, which has been taking quite some time. And so as we close that out, we will be closing out that project as well. The project that we still have ongoing and really has a lot of work going on with it is the Meridian Road Extension Project. And as we've talked about, that is in the final design and property acquisition phase. And that is the one project that we are coordinating with a project during PPRTA 2, the US 24 New Meridian intersection project, and also our Park and Ride project. So because that is all being put together as one project, so we're saving some money, that we are advancing all three projects. That is under property acquisition right now. That's all designed, and we're hoping to get that out the door and under ad late this year. And then finally, a couple projects that we have, and we're just finally closing out a couple final invoices is the Stapleton Road West and the County Line Road projects. Those were finished quite some time ago. Once we finish making sure that all invoices are paid, I anticipate doing a line item transfer next quarter on those projects, so you won't be seeing that. And we will be sending any money that is outstanding on any of these projects to the Meridian Road Extension Project, because that one is still waiting to be bid out. And then once we finish that project, any of those remaining monies will be going to the capital pool. So I think the big news on our projects is that we still really have one outstanding project that we're diligently working on and trying to get out the door, and that's the Meridian Road Extension Project. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Do you know how you identify the proper way to identify a Friedels Meadow jumping mouse?
Yes, you've told us numerous times,
Okay.
but please let the rest of the group know.
I haven't heard it.
Yes.
Autopsy, that's the only way you can identify one.
I thought the answer was you ask it, and if it says it is, then it is. So,
And Commissioner, do you know what R stands for in KR, Swordferger?
Robert,
Ray.
doggone it. Somebody had to go look that up.
We both learned something today, but it's been a while since I worked with KR Swordferger. So.
I'm going to call my good friend Keith Swordfigure and ask him if that's true. All right.
You just do that.
Don't go too far, because you're coming back, I think. All right, City of Colorado Springs.
Okay, so I read this for the first time. So we're finishing up with some of our roadway and safety operations through our traffic program. Woodman Road, as you're well aware, is finishing up. We're substantially complete. We're just in the process of adding some privacy fences out there now, and we're under warranty for the landscaping. Just that 1 year maintenance and warranty period has started. Pikes Peak Greenway, we're going to be cleaning up some of the trail connections down where Cottonwood Creek ties into that. That's by our FEMA grant down there by the old Vincent Bridge and that old relocation, so there's some projects we're going to be doing down there. Austin Bluffs Corridor, we're going to move that into another capital pool here once we identify that. And then Mark Shuffle, we've been working on the new bridge with Sand Creek, and we've been going back and forth with a structure selection. I think it's probably going to be a precast concrete arch through part of that, so that we can get the Sand Creek Trail to go under, so it'll be a separated grade crossing, which would be desired. Any questions that you have?
All right, seeing no questions, and we have one project that looks like it is a city and county project that isn't completed.
Is that Mark Shuffle? I think we've pooled all of those funds together into what we call Mark Shuffle
Oh,
North.
perfect.
Yeah, so we had a funding sequence that we talked about late last year, and that's progressing. So if anybody wants an update on that, but I think that pretty well stands. Nothing's changed with that.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, agenda item 8C, the change order and property acquisition report.
City of Colorado Springs?
Yep.
We've got Dublin Widening, Kimley Horn. We have a task order for them to help with some right-of-way and some construction management services. Woodman Road, we have some sidewalk that we've added to the contract to remove and replace. And then under the maintenance, we've got TLM Constructors. They're working on, I guess it's North Carefree, right by the Springs Ranch Golf Course. We are in the process of removing that fill and removing a joint on some box culverts, and then waterproofing that ahead of the 2C paving project that'll start in August. And yay is that same contract.
Excellent. Any questions? All right.
What,
Oh, Commissioner Gonzalez.
What, 1,700% increase? Is that correct, or is that a typo?
So what we do with our bridge maintenance contract is we have on-call contractors. So we renew them annually up to 5 years, and their contract will expire, I believe, at the end of this year, so we'll have to do a new recompete for on-call contractors. And each year, we have set unit prices for bridge maintenance projects. So what you're looking at is just their original contract over the last 5 years, and with 2C, we have taken our bridge maintenance from about $2 million to $5.9 million. So we've really been trying to take care of our bridge assets ahead of the paving projects. That's why you're seeing such an increase.
All right. Same thing for El Paso County.
We have several property acquisition reports for the Colorado Avenue project, pretty standard. First two are appraisal values that the property owner accepted. The second one is a reimbursement for the property owner's appraisal for Colorado, the RV park. And then the second one is a reimbursement for some engineering costs, as they're having to, as a result of our work, do some realignment of some of their interior spaces, and that's a cost that's reimbursable, pretty standard. So if you have a question about that, any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Quarterly reports from member governments.
Rick Sonnenberg, and the quarterly reports, this is an information item. They're in your packet. These are required by what's called the comprehensive IGAs that the PPRTA board requires of each of the 5 member governments on a quarterly basis. Project reports, what they've done in the quarter, and this is for the first calendar quarter of 2018, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. Agenda item number 10.
I figured it out. Figured out how to turn it on.
Push the face.
I do not have a need for an executive session today. I can report to the board, and I sent this out via email as well as soon as we had the information, that the Court of Appeals did issue a unanimous decision in favor of the PPRTA in the litigation that we had going with Walmart. At this juncture, there's really 3 options that Walmart has. They can decide to do nothing. 2 left. They could have applied to the Court of Appeals for a rehearing within 14 days of the decision. The timeline for that has already passed, so they're not taking that option. They could apply to the Supreme Court for appeal on certiorari. The deadline for that would be June 28th. If they were to take that option, the Supreme Court would then decide whether or not they would hear that case. So it's not an appeal by right. The Supreme Court doesn't have to accept that for a hearing. And it's only a small percentage of those cases that are apply for certiorari that are actually accepted by the Supreme Court. So I'll be able to report to you at the next meeting whether they elected to do that or not. The opinion was very well written, very favorable for the PPRTA, definitely clarified the issues that we were concerned about, which was that any property owner that wants to be excluded from the PPRTA boundaries has to come to this board and use the exclusion mechanisms in the statute, similar to what the CAS did a couple of years ago. There cannot be any unilateral decision by a non-member government to remove territory from the PPRTA's taxing jurisdiction without this board's consent. So, very good decision. The other half of what we've been working on is the collection of the marijuana sales tax, starting that back up again. The resolution that the board passed at last month's meeting was sent over to the DOR, and they're doing what they need to do in the back office to get that collection started up again on July 1st.
Any questions for Jennifer?
Good output.
All right. That covers agenda item number 11 as well. Number 12, any member announcements? Anything for the good of the order? All right, number 13, we are adjourned.
You can't quit now, it isn't 3 hours.
Will you stay here for 3 hours? Tell us how it goes.
Stay here for 3 hours.
You can read this whole book as many times as you like.
We spend more money than PPACG, and we get our meeting in less than a third of the time. Unbelievable. That's what you get for 7 cents.
PPACG?
The RTI, 3-hour meeting today.
So those just being handed out or whatever? It's a big stack of those. Are they being handed out?
There you go. Out to Rama.
Oh, those are going out.
Yeah, those are going to Rama.
Okay.
We hand them out at the meeting. Set them down. Some at the